And we're back with the ADV160. So today's video, I'm going to go on a little journey back to my home country. I'm actually going to go back to where the condo that I lived in for 12 years was, because there's a restaurant there that I used to eat at all the time, but it's been taken over by the couple's daughter who originally started it. And I figured I got some time to kill. Let's use the scooter. I want to check it out. All right. I want to love this machine. I really do. I want to love the ADV160. And you know what? I really like it. But love comes with time and miles. I'm still very gun shy about riding this thing because just yesterday I was nearly run over by an inattentive soccer mom. Actually, I don't think I was. She definitely started pulling out as I was coming up to her and pulling out of a driveway. And she wasn't looking. Fortunately, I was, and, nothing happened. But I did give her the stare of death, which I'm sure made her super uncomfortable, which was my goal. Let's take a quick moment to talk about that fucking water pump. Take a look at the old pump, and what do we see? Well, we see a little bit of coolant is what we see. And that makes me super uncomfortable. Now, what the fuck is going on here? What is the deal with this water pump? Why does it leak? It's brand new. All right. I've been doing a lot of searching on forums, and it turns out this is super common, like normal. Like they all do it. Apparently, there's a few theories as to why. So, what's happening is, all right, the pump seal itself is constructed out of ceramic, and there's a stainless steel. It's actually two pieces that mate together, okay? And they spin and they mate together. And the coolant provides lubrication and cooling properties to that mechanical seal, which is, again, made out of a ceramic and stainless steel set of parts that are supposed to be super well machined together, and they're not supposed to leak, but sometimes they do. So, for example, the Honda Africa Twin, which is a very nice kind of a, I believe it's, what do they call that? It's like a dual sport type bike. It's a parallel twin, or is it a V-twin? I don't know. Anyway, the Africa Twin was one I found which uses a very similar pump. And in the owner's manual, in the service manual, it states that occasionally seeing coolant from that weep hole is completely normal. Honda themselves have said, you know what? They leak. Just deal with it. My own service manual doesn't say anything about the weep hole. But I suspect that with miles, it will probably stop leaking on its own. The pump itself is a $30 part. I looked it up. The entire assembly is a $30 part. That's all it costs. $30. And it takes about 10 minutes to replace it. So I have a choice to make. And it all depends on how this ride goes. If I find that it's gushing coolant yet again, I'm going to bring it back to the dealer. And I already have a lawyer lined up, apparently. Amelia did some footwork for me. And I'm going to file a lemon law claim if it's gushing out. But a little bit of dripping is not... Apparently, that is normal. I don't know. Look, I drove a Helix for 30,000 miles. It had 42,000 miles when I was done with it on the original pump, and it never leaked a drop. What has changed? Honda, the ball's in your court. If this is normal, no amount of pump replacing is ever going to stop it. We have to realize that. So, as long as the system isn't like, you should never see drops of coolant come out of it, but a little bit of residue, apparently, is a thing that happens. So, why don't we put some miles on it and just see what happens? See where we go with this. you just saw there was basically my commute every day for 12 years, pretty much. And that's what got me into motorcycling in the first place. I just checked the pump, and no signs of leakage other than what we saw before. So that was some miles we put on her, and here we are. And better get over there while I can. But she handled herself pretty well. All right. Well, that was so far the longest ride that I've taken this thing on, and you know, so I said in the beginning of this video that my goal is to love this machine, but I like it. I really like it. I really do. But I don't love it. And I'm being completely honest. I don't love it. But I like it. I can live with it. And here's the problem. I owned a Helix for about 4 years. 3 to 4 years prior to owning this. That was back in 2016, 15, 14, 13. That's when I had the Helix. I put a lot of miles on that bike. I went through a lot with that Helix. It was like my buddy. That Helix was more than a machine. It's going to take a long time for me to develop that kind of relationship with this bike. Honda had something truly special in their 1980s scooter lineup. They had when they went to the 4-stroke engines with the Elite 80, the 125, the 150, the 250, and the Helix. Now, again, I'm speaking from an American mindset. This is what we had in the U.S. market. So if you're in Europe or Asia or anywhere else in the world, you know, your selections may vary. And I will say those 1980s Honda scooters were something out of this world. In reliability, durability, serviceability, they just can't be replicated. And I wanted something new. I didn't want to buy another project bike. I didn't want something, you know, used, you know, that would need repair, service, and all this other stuff that comes with the territory of buying a used or an older model bike. But what I gave up what I gained in perceived reliability. This is a modern day fuel injected bike, and it starts and runs the same way every time. I have no qualms about the long-term reliability of this engine. I do believe the water pump issue it's just a characteristic, I guess. We'll talk about that later. But what I have gained in perceived reliability, I've lost in long-term durability. Number one, this engine, if I ran this engine out of oil even once, it would grenade itself. It would not survive that. But the 1980s Honda scooter engines could be driven so hard, driven out of oil, driven out of coolant, and you know what? They would just bounce right back. Let them cool off, replenish what was lost, and they fire up, and you put another 10,000 miles on them. This engine it's a great engine. I'll talk a bit more about it in a second. It's a great engine. It has some great characteristics, good manners. I love it. But it is not a 1980s Honda engine. It just isn't. And sometimes, through the march of progress, we permanently lose what we once had. Now the engine, let's talk about that for a second. And we'll include the drivetrain as well. I have noticed something that other folks have pointed out in other reviews I've read about the ADV and the PCX. They're basically the same scooter. The ADV has some nicer body cladding, body work, you know, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit higher off the ground, but they're basically the same bike underneath. Kind of like how the Helix and the Elite were basically the same. Well, the engines were built from the same blueprints, but they had different frames, different suspension. The engine is waking up, and I knew it would. So when I first rode this bike, it was a little stiff. The engine was a little stiff. You could feel it. It's like it felt like it wanted to do more, but it just couldn't. It couldn't do it. It just didn't have it in it. What I'm finding is that this engine is waking up like a sleeping beast. At around the 300 mile mark, I noticed it started to accelerate a little bit nicer, a little bit faster. Top speed on this bike, now I can go from 0 to 65. I don't have an exact count, but we'll put it this way. It pulls. It really pulls. In one particular clip in the video I'm going to upload, there is one part where I actually did get it to about 65, and I had to back off because that's about as fast as the car in front of me was going. But to 65 miles an hour, she can do it all day long once it's broken in. I tried to give it the beans when I first got it, my first trip on it, and it just wasn't having it. It was starting to conk out at around 55, and you could just feel it. It's like, no, I'm not ready. Stop it. But I can tell you without hesitation that this bike will do 65 and possibly faster. It was still winding up when I had to lay off the throttle. And it's stable. It is, so far, it has been stable at all speeds. I did notice something that others have reported, and that is a bit of a driveline harmonic vibration of some kind. And you feel it. I have noticed it between 45 and 48 miles an hour or so, 48, 49. Somewhere in that region, there is a bit of a, you can feel it in the bike. Others have described it as belt slap. It is belt driven, and that's entirely possible, but I'm not really sure about that. But it definitely has some kind of a harmonic disturbance at that speed. I'm trying to remember if my Helix or my Elite 150 had something like that, but I don't recall. I don't recall that they ever did. As far as comfort, now I've put some miles, 360 miles. How many miles? How many miles are on it now? 356 miles. So in the 356 miles, I've noticed that the seat is a little bit hard on longer trips. Short trips, it's fine, but you ride on it for a little while, you start to really feel it. Not the best seat in the world, but not the worst. The worst scooter I ever drove in my life, by the way, there's two ties. It's a tie. So, the fiance and I went out to Bermuda. And I rented a scooter. She rented an e-bike. It's a long story. But I ended up with a Chinese two-stroke scooter. She got an e-bike. That Chinese two-stroke scooter was like staring death in the face. And then you throw in Bermuda traffic and driving on the wrong side of the road, and it was pretty fucking terrifying. I will just leave it at that. It was terrifying. But this is not that. If you've ever ridden a small 2-stroke or 50cc 4-stroke, whatever, this is not that. If that's what you're expecting, that's not what you're going to get. No, this actually does ride like a serious bike, but it's not like a full dresser Harley or anything, but it's the real deal. If I had to do it all over again, would I buy this machine? I think that's an important question to answer, and somebody will ask me that, so I'll get ahead of it. Guys, come on, stop it. I'm tired of licking your wounds, guys. Come on, stop it. What was I saying? So true. So true. He does. Would I buy it again? No. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't buy this again. Because it's not what I'm looking for. And I know that now. After 360 miles, whatever you want to say it, however you want to put it, I wouldn't buy this scooter again. And I need to clarify why I say that. Because it is not what I'm used to. It is a wonderful scooter. It is a wonderful commuter bike. It really is. And I'm not really planning on getting rid of it, by the way. I've really decided that, you know what, I think I'm going to hang on to this one. I think I'm going to hang on to it at least until something better comes along. Or I find that one slick I want to find a 2007 Honda Helix, honestly. One that's been sitting in some old guy's garage for 14 years with like 3,000 miles on it. That's what I want. A 2007 Honda Helix. That's the last year they were made. And find one that's been well maintained. But back to this. It is not a bad bike. Actually, it is actually quite nice. I do like it. Like I said, I don't love it, but I like it enough to keep it. It's fun to look at. I think it's beautiful. I really do. I love the way it looks. I love the way it runs and drives. It is not a Helix. It is not a Silverwing. The Silverwing 600 that I got smacked on, you know, I'd buy another one of those. I'd buy another Helix, but I won't buy this. I won't buy this again. I wish I didn't buy it. But I don't want to down talk it. I mean, it is a good bike. But if you're looking for that sofa on wheels riding experience, there is nothing in the world better than a Helix. And if you own a Helix and you're thinking about, maybe upgrade, get something better, get something newer, you know what? Don't. Take a really good look at what you have. You have the best scooter ever made. And furthermore, if you're just looking to burn some money, go over to your parts counter at your local Honda dealer. Fuck Amazon, fuck eBay. Go to your parts counter at your Honda dealer, or go to, there are many different Honda dealers that sell parts on the internet at a cost reduction plus shipping. Either way, buy yourself the following parts. Ready? Get a pen. Clutch bearing. Buy the whole clutch. Look at the parts explosion. Buy the entire clutch assembly. Okay, buy one of those. Buy the clutch bell. Get yourself a new variator. Both sides of the variator. And all associated parts. Just go buy all those parts while you still can. Get yourself a set of front shocks. Okay? Get yourself a set of rear shocks. Get yourself some new front wheel bearings. Maybe pick up a water pump. What else? Really not much. Oh, get yourself a genuine Honda instrument cluster window assembly, the whole bezel. Buy one of those. And anything that might be showing wear and tear. Okay. Carburetor. Get yourself pretty much all of the major components of that carburetor. from Honda. Yes, you heard me. Mark my words. Don't go on Amazon. Don't go on eBay. Go to Honda. Get the correct parts. Get a float. Get a whole carburetor kit. They don't have a kit. You have to buy the parts individually, but you want to buy all the rubber seals. You want to make sure that you're getting a new intake manifold. Okay? If you do not have a 2004 or later, get yourself a carburetor mounting brace. You can get this part by buying all the associated components from an 07. There's a carburetor bracket. There's a couple of bolts. Buy all those parts. What I'm saying is, if you own a Helix, you already have the best scooter ever made. Period. End of story. Now, obviously, I am partial to the Silverwing. As I mentioned earlier, I would buy another one. Why I didn't buy a Silverwing is they're hard to find. They're just so hard to find. And the ones that I'm seeing are pretty well beat up. The one that I had was a low mile. I think it had 7,000 miles on it. And it was mint. And I paid a pretty penny for it. And the dealer actually rebuilt the front shocks for me too. Right up, no questions asked. They rebuilt them as part of the sale. And because they had failed inspection. But it was a wonderful scooter. For the 1,000 miles I put on it, I miss it so bad. But, hey, life had other plans for me. We'll see where this takes me. Thank you for watching. And once again, yes, it is seeping coolant, but it seems like they all do. I don't know that there is a fix for that. I don't know that that is something that is even remotely abnormal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to contact the dealer tomorrow when I get to work, and I'm going to ask them. I'm just going to be straight with them and say, look, it is seeping again. Is this normal? Do you know if it's normal or not? Stay tuned on that one. But for a $30 water pump, I mean, look. If you're used to buying OEM parts, $30 is nothing. That's actually, it's almost theft. Like, I'm stealing it from them. Because they could charge $100 and people would still buy it. So, anyway. Thank you all for watching, and ride safe.